into it. No time to waste. We back, y'all. It's your boy G alongside Alec and Matt joining us again. Appreciate the opportunity back in. Kind of a surprise episode for you guys. I know we're supposed to be dropping every week, and we'll continue on with that. We also announced that we're going to have a new rotation of guys we're going to have on each week, but we're going to jump on today because we just got word of the new NBA CBA that just was agreed to by players and owners across the board. So definitely some fun things to discuss with that. Thank you for tuning back into the show. Like, rate, resubscribe, all that good stuff for us. I don't want to waste too much time right now. I want to talk about there's a lot of stuff going on here. So y'all see who's here with us. Glad to talk about it all, and we'll jump into it. Let's run this intro real quick. All right, so as you see here from Shams, Sean, is it Shams or Shams? I'm saying it wrong.
I think it's Shams, but
Shams. My apologies. I don't want to say anything. Not starting like this, Jesus. But, anyways, Shams reported that the NBA and the Players Association have reached a new collective bargaining agreement. There were a lot of things on the table they were trying to come to terms with. There were a lot of things that players have been fighting for some time that have been up in the air. Again, it appears that in some regard they have found some solutions to it. So we switch over to all that was agreed to.
I like how they announced it like World War III ended, like labor peace.
This treaty has been signed.
We've reached a labor armistice.
So they've agreed to a new 7-year agreement. Notably, I actually want to come back to that. But actually, let me switch over to this. One of the most notable things that people are talking about, for one, is that the NBA and NBPA have agreed to a minimum number of games played for players to be eligible to win major awards, individual league awards, which is now 65 games. There's rumors that they're going to be adjusting this in some kind of way. 60 was floated at first. 65 was a number that I saw a lot of people that I thought would be a good number. And I saw people say some as high as 70, some as low as 45. We actually think the 65 number that was agreed to today for individual awards.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I was thinking like 66 would be it because it was like 80% exactly or whatever.
Sure.
But 65, I think, is a nice sweet spot. Like, I don't think anything less, I don't think would be good enough, and anything more might be a little bit too egregious because injuries do happen and that kind of thing. So I think 65 is a nice sweet spot. What do you guys think?
Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a way to deal with the problem, of load management, right? Like, I think especially as, like the NBA becomes more international and like, there's questions whether or not the fans that have the signs that are like, oh, I traveled, 5,000 miles from Argentina to watch Kawhi Leonard play.
Right.
I think one of those people did it in like 5 different cities. But still that's still a real thing. So I think it's definitely a problem that they need to deal with, but I think a better way to do it would be like have them play less games. Because now what if there's a scenario where like someone goes down with an injury that takes them out like 10 games, and then like they want to have some sort of like injury maintenance, like that's sort of become the new load management now.
Right.
Is like people say injury maintenance, but that can be real if you're coming back from like a bad knee injury and you're in your 30s or whatever. And that could, I don't know. It just feels like it's a way to deal with the problem, but not actually giving the players like less games to play, which I feel like was always what they sort of wanted. So this feels like a very, like a solution that benefits the owners more than the players.
I feel like both sides probably wouldn't want less games only from the money aspect, because like you're going to lose a lot of money from TV ad revenue just from games not being played if you shorten the season, as well as like the arenas and ticket sales and in-game like what's it called, like the concessions, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then the players, like, that would probably end up being a reduction in salary cap and that kind of thing if they were to reduce the amount of games too. So that's probably the reason why they don't, even though I see the benefit of it, like as you're talking about, Matt, but I think it comes down to money as to why it doesn't get reduced. Like, they've tried to reduce the back-to-backs already, which they have a little bit, but we still have those. But I feel like the only other solution would be like extending the season and spreading out the games a little bit longer, but you already have like a 9-month season or something. Like you already have a long season, so yeah.
We could see some Nancy antics in order to get guys to make sure they get at 65. And not exactly the same thing because this is more so there's injuries and all of that. But I think at the beginning of the year when Draymond was first suspended or whatever it was, he was supposed to be suspended for the first game, but it was their ring ceremony or whatever. So then he check in for like 1 minute, do the tip off, and then like
that was nasty,
off, something like that.
That hurts guys' stats too. So I feel like guys don't do that.
But at the same time, we could see, well, it might hurt my stats, but I got 65, so at least I'm eligible at least still because I at least stepped on the court for a moment. So that's just something that it may not be used, but something that came to mind once that was announced. Draymond had some reactions that we'll get to later on, but definitely could shake things up in regards to what guys get awards. I didn't fully look at what guys have crossed that minimum this year, but I'm sure there's a few. Because I know a few notable people have been out for some time this year, and that could potentially knock them out. So that clearly will have its impact going forward. So definitely we'll see how that continues to play, and yeah, looking forward to how that influences guys staying on the court on long term going forward. So good things in that regard. And then another thing that had a lot of people's attention, where's this at? Let me pull this up. Let's go back here. And so, as they announced, as was discussed, they are bringing back the in-season tournament. They're officially making the in-season tournament. This in-season tournament could arrive as soon as 2023-2024 season. The event will include pool play games baked into the regular season schedule starting in November, with 8 teams advancing to a single elimination tournament in December. The Final Four will be held at a neutral site, with Las Vegas prominent in the discussion, sources said. Each in-season tournament game would count toward regular season standings. The 2 finalists would ultimately play an 83rd game that would not count in the regular season. Winning players and coach will earn additional prize money. There was a number that I saw that it was like originally it was supposed to be like $1 million for each player. They agreed to $500,000 instead for each player for the tournament. So thoughts on the tournament, thoughts on the pay for these guys. What do you think about this agreement they came to in this regard? Matt, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. It's really just a question of whether or not the players buy in. Like, I know the WNBA has a very similar thing called the Commissioner's Cup. I think it started last year. And like it has a similar, like pay bonus. And since the WNBA players are pretty underpaid, like it made a difference. I think it was honestly like Chicago Sky versus the Las Vegas Aces last year, which were 2 of the best teams. So it was sort of like a preview, which I imagine the NBA is hoping this will be. But thinking back to like the World Baseball Classic, like what made that so compelling for a lot of people was that the players cared so much. And, that's tied into like national pride and not being able to like play with a team full of guys from your same country and whatnot. But, as long as I think like what kind of that shows us is as long as the players buy in, if the players care about this, then it'll be, it'll be quality basketball.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the NBA was like, we can give you all $6 million. We ain't gonna give you 12. As far as the winning prize money, but I mean, as far as the tournament in general, what did Draymond say?
That first they said $1 million was on each player, but then they dropped it down to half of that. So
he said, here's 6. We ain't giving you double digits total.
Over promise, under deliver.
Absolutely, like a great politician. I think the idea in theory of the in-season tournament I'm fine with, as long as it's not like increasing the regular season. They said it'll be baked into the regular season, so good. I guess I feel like as consumers, a lot of times we don't really like know what we want until we see it, like until it's shown to us. Right. And I think like similar to like the bubble, like there was a lot of skepticism and hesitance when we heard that was going to be a thing and what would the product be like, that kind of thing. But we saw that we got a pretty like pure form of basketball from that.
Correct.
So I do trust Adam Silver and the NBA in that way to put forth a product that will be entertaining and won't take away from the season. I feel like this may, I guess, change how I guess like the comparison of like older generations and newer generations is going to be a little bit different now that we have like a in-season style, like soccer style tournament amidst the NBA regular season. But I think it could make for more intrigue in the middle of the season. A lot of times G says like the season doesn't start till Christmas Day. Right. And that's, I guess, another thing I have a slight concern about is like how it affects like Christmas Day games, because they said like the tournament will be in December, the final will be sometime in December. So I mean, Christmas Day is like a huge thing for the NBA, and got the slate of 5 games in a row or whatever. Like, will it take away significance from that as well too?
Honestly, I mean, to add to that point real quick, I think it adds to it, because as good as Christmas Day games are, there are times where there's some games thrown in there that you kind of just tune out. So it's like you have it on the background, doing your thing. But if it becomes a Christmas Day classic now, where you have the Final Four, you have 2 games.
Hey, the final is on it. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Playing for a championship or in a way on Christmas Day. I think that can only add to the intrigue that's already there for folks that love basketball. I'm also with the NFL trying to take over as they did. I think last year they had games on Christmas too. Was kind of because it fell on.
It was on a Sunday. Yeah.
Still, they clearly took advantage of that, and the numbers I believe showed that the NFL dominated that day. Just to combat whatever the NFL might continue trying to throw at that day. I think adding more intrigue to the games that they present could be a great thing. So it works for the fans, but obviously players will pull away about it as well too, though. So we'll see.
Yeah, but it's just another chance for, as Matt said, like bringing some like, I guess, sense of pride and like I mean, because I guess you'll have some bragging rights towards the middle of the season now. For some teams aren't really going to be in playoff contention, so I don't know if teams that aren't in playoff contention will still be in contention, like for the in-season tournament as well too. Like something to play for other than tanking for Wembanyama. What is that?
If they tanking already at Christmas, then that's a bad look.
But it happens. Like the Rockets and the Spurs were out of it pretty soon into the season.
True.
So yeah, another way to bring some intrigue to the season and get players to care about regular season games, because you see a lot of players, including Draymond Green himself, talking about it's hard to get out of bed for a game in March. That's not what we want to hear as fans from these world-class NBA athletes. So
yeah, first off, just off of that, I hope Draymond seeks help for his seasonal depression. That sounds like a much more serious problem. But I also, before we get off like this tournament, I want to get a prediction in that I think this is going to be like the Damian Lillard tournament. Like, people have been sad that he shut down. Everyone's like, oh, you can't win in Portland. I feel like this is going to be the Damian Lillard tournament. He's gonna average like 45 points in these qualifying games, take over, and then be like, see, Portland, I brought you. Look at all I brought
ring now.
Yeah, I didn't run from the grind. I got this.
Yeah, this has now changed like the ring debate, ring culture. Right. Like if you win the in-season tournament, now you got some bragging rights for your legacy too. I don't know.
NBA Twitter has to agree on if this counts as half a ring.
Hey, you think about name? Hey, now the Kings can get 3 rings. We can get that.
Oh my god! Now it's gonna be like
the Summer League champ.
Oh my god! The Triple Crown, the Summer League
champ.
ring.
Oh my god! Summer League, come on!
Summer League ring.
No, have some shame. Have some shame. G.
Not at all. You see the impact. You see the impact.
Now it's gonna be is the Kings in-season tournament ring worth more than KD's 2 rings?
Whose run is more impressive, the Kings Triple Crown or Bill Russell's 11?
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. So definitely good things to tune into in that regard. So we'll see how it plays out, and hopefully it works well, and players are invested. So it's something that we actually care about and enjoy. So that's another thing to keep our eyes on. Another thing more on a serious side is about contracts and things. Going back here, the NBA and NBPA have agreed to increase the upper limits on extensions from 120% increase on a current deal to 140%, which could have a significant impact on future of stars like Celtics forward Jaylen Brown, future Kings forward Jaylen Brown,
future Hawk Jaylen Brown.
Oh, come on!
Under the current rules, Brown will be allowed to sign a 4-year extension worth $165 million. With the extensioning rules increased to $140, however, Brown, who's set to earn $31.8 million in the offseason, the final year of his current contract, we're able to reach his 4-year max of $189 million, according to Bobby Marks. Similarly, our current king, MVP center Domantas Sabonis, could currently sign a 4-year, $111 million extension, one that jumps up to 121 with the increase to 140. There's an increase in two-way contract slots, from 2 to 3 per team. Two-way contracts were created in the 2017 collective bargaining agreement as a vehicle for teams to develop younger players. It has been seen as a success as it's become a route to players earning long-term homes in the league, and in several cases becoming major contributors. So, we got to think of that change. Do you think it's going to impact guys staying in certain places? And we can talk more about Jaylen Brown as well, if that'll impact where he stays in Boston, our goal, as we joked about too. But what are your thoughts on the increase there?
I'm gonna be honest. I was reading this before we got on, and my head started spinning when I was trying to figure out what this meant for the contracts. I was more confused than I was understanding what was going on.
It seems like there's add more room for guys to get.
But then there was something about because they alluded to like the a few current teams that like made free agent signings in the offseason, but they wouldn't have been able to make them with these new rules.
That's extensions.
So they added like a second level to the luxury tax. So where if you're above this mark, then you can't use your mid-level exception. That's how the Celtics signed Gallinari. That's how the Warriors signed White Dante.
I'll read it real quick. The NBA is curbing the ability of the highest spending teams, such as the Warriors and Clippers, to continue running up salary and luxury tax spending while maintaining mechanisms to add talent to the roster. The NBA is implementing a second salary cap apron, $17.5 million over the tax line, and those teams will no longer have access to a taxpayer mid-level in free agency. Those changes will be eased into the salary cap over a period of years. Under these changes, guys, as Matt just noted, Dante DiVincenzo at Golden State, Joe Ingles in Milwaukee, Danilo Gallinari in Boston, and former Clipper guard John Wall wouldn't have been able to sign with those teams last summer. So, for extensions, there's going to be room for guys to get paid more. But for other guys who want to bring onto the roster, they're not going to have as much. There's going to be caps for what is able to be offered to those guys. So that's where the difference is.
I see.
Yeah. I mean, back to the contract stuff, like I think mainly what this does is, like it alluded to with Jaylen Brown is the main player that I've heard this about. Like if you don't make an all-NBA team or like I think it's first team all defense or something, then you aren't eligible for the Supermax.
Right.
And if you aren't, then it is completely in your best interest to not even seek a contract extension, like in the numbers that they were talking about, and just go to free agency, which like if that made it, before this came out, it basically said that, okay, if Jaylen Brown doesn't make all NBA this year, then he is going to go into free agency. So even with this contract increase, I think for a guy like Jaylen, where he is right on that borderline of all NBA, I think it still makes sense for him to bet on himself and try to make it again next year if he doesn't this year.
Yeah.
Because that's just how he gets the most money. But for a guy like Sabonis, I mean, he's in the same discussion. So, it might be the case in a lot of ways that guys try to bet on themselves for the Supermax, but this at least leaves the door open, because I know when I heard people talk about Jaylen before, it was like, there's no chance he signs this extension. Like it just it doesn't make any sense for him.
Right. So, Alec, you already shared any
further on that? Does that like de-incentivize a little bit now that like you won't have to get that all NBA nod or all first team all defense nod or whatever to get the extra money now? Like, does that de-incentivize the player a little bit?
I don't think so, just because that's still such an absurd amount of money. Like I think what they're trying to address at least was that sort of no man's land that like Jaylen's in, where there's not even a reason to negotiate, basically. Like Jaylen knows he will get more money if he goes to free agency. Whereas now, like if he basically wasn't having a borderline all NBA season, I think there would be a chance that he would take that extension. But because he's played so well, and he seems absolutely like the kind of guy that would bet on himself. So I wouldn't be worried if he turns down the extension.
But slightly like more helpful, I guess, to the team for the team aspect. To like be able to retain a guy that might have just went to free agency. If
if you think, I don't know, if you think of a guy like, I mean, I think he just got paid already, but like Jalen Brunson, like those players that like aren't quite at all NBA level. Although Brunson might make it this year.
Sure.
Might have just pulled a bad player there. But like those guys like that are still really key, and like contenders should try to keep them no matter what. But aren't like quite a superstar.
Yeah,
I like it.
In that regard, it helps teams, but to the latter part, Draymond yet again was mad about that initial thing that we talked
No way.
about. When we first shared about the teams not being able to sign those guys.
Shut up and dribble, Draymond.
Huh?
I said, shut up and dribble, Draymond.
Oh my God.
They will let the rich get richer. What's going on?
But in reaction to talking about the part where we mentioned earlier about the team not being able to sign those guys like Gallinari and DiVincenzo with the adjustments, this is how Draymond reacted to that. Players lose again. As I'm shaking my head, middle and lower spectrum teams don't spend because they don't want to. They want to lose. So increase their spending capabilities just to increase them. Did I read that right? So increase their spending capabilities just to increase them. They continue to cut out the middle. This is what we wrestled to a deal for. Shake my damn head, never fails. So yeah, he's not a fan of that.
In that point, he's saying it's bad for the players. And so what? We're just increasing the spending capabilities of the teams. Where does that money go? The players? Like,
I don't. Yeah.
So like, all right. So someone, instead of signing like a $5 million mid-level exception with your team to help you win a championship, now they can get $10 million to go play for the Rockets. Like it's not really a loss to the players in my eyes.
Yeah, it's just a loss to him, I guess he's seen. So
it seems so.
Yeah. If it brings more balance to the league, then I'm all for it. So yeah, great stuff there. Let's see what else is notable in here. Oh, that's it. So yeah,
that was it. Yeah, that
was it. Those are at least the main terms as ESPN has shared about the CBA for us to look at. And I think that at least for the fans, it can be beneficial. But I do see how there could be some conflict for some players, and we'll see how they react to it going forward.
There was
one more thing.
Yeah, what you do have on the screen there with the two-way players.
Yeah.
No, there was one more beyond that too.
I know. I do like them adding an extra two-way contract player though. Like especially with the G League getting more and more competitive. I'd imagine the trend of good young talent playing for the G League Ignite's going to continue. Like it's only going to make that league more competitive.
Yeah.
And I mean, like it cites in the article players like Austin Reeves and Alex Caruso, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson. So these are quality guys. And I feel like every draft season, there's a couple guys that, you remember from playing in college or whatever that don't get drafted that you're like, they definitely need to be playing professional basketball, somewhere. So I think it opens up another spot, which is nice.
The Lakers can sign another overlooked white guy with with ball skills.
Bring back Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matt Ryan.
not the same, but yeah.
All right, so my bad. I was pulling up something. So all the stuff we discussed here is the notable stuff for ESPN that they shared that was first announced in the CBA. But there was one last part that I saw was announced as well. And the NBA players will no longer be privileged for marijuana.
Oh, yeah.
7-year collective bargaining agreement to be removed from the anti-drug testing program.
Stay on the weed.
1920 season. Stay on. Stay on the weed. No more Stephen A. rants. Guys are going to be able to do what they want, at least in some regard. And we'll see how that influences some play going forward. When things first started coming out like this, people thought guys were going to be running around just dragging across the court and not paying attention and sleep on the bench and stuff. But I think now that people have a more clear understanding of how this would be helpful, it could be a good thing for some guys going forward. So, any thoughts on this, funny or real? Whatever angle you want to take on it, go ahead, Alec. I'll go back to you.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good thing. I don't think it's something that truly has affected players' performance in a negative way. Like we've heard from former all-star level players that said that they smoked before a ton of games, like back in the day.
Steven Jackson.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't gonna name names, but they're good now. They're good now. So
the podcast is literally called All the Smoke, Alec. I think it's
fun. True. But yeah, no, I don't think it's. Yeah, I think this is a good thing overall. This is not a hardcore. What are they called? Like the higher drug, like tier
schedule
tier 2,
one.
Schedule whatever. Yeah, this isn't a drug that impacts you in that way. So yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's good too. I mean, I feel like across all sports, you hear people talk about how it helps you recover. I think even, as far as like swimming, I know Michael Phelps has had his controversies with it. And I think he's cited.
Oh my God. They assassinated that man's character.
I know.
Smoking. Oh my God.
All those gold medals. No, you held a bong, sir. You're going to jail. But yeah, like athletes across, all sports talk about this. Like this is something I think could be really beneficial for the NFL, especially since, like there's a much higher level of like pain that most of those players deal with and like the recovery. I think it would be really helpful there. And then, Alec, you made the point, people were, up in arms, like, are they going to be high on the court? Like, secret for those people is they already were when it was still illegal. Like if they wanted to, they did it. So it's, we can ask our questions about J.R. Smith in the finals at a later date. But
Brandon Ingram's been high for a decade. And he's
he hasn't come down since 2006. That's
so yeah, definitely great things there. Any other things that weren't mentioned here that you like to see changed, or are you satisfied with as is?
Not that jumps out at me at the top of my head.
Yeah, I'd wonder if they're going to let guys potentially be in sponsorships now. Like, I don't know if that's still something the NBA could see as like bad for them to associate with like the league's brand, like, on a sponsorship level. But it would be kind of interesting because we see a lot of former players get into it. Like I know Al Harrington has his own weed. I think Paul Pierce has dabbled in it. I'm sure there's a much longer list, but it'd be interesting if guys try
Paul
to
Pierce
start
need a Depends sponsorship.
He's headed there pretty fast. I can't defend him there. That man needs a bedtime.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm cool with everything that's been announced. We'll see what changes come along with it as well beyond what was just a report here so far. And just excited for what's next in basketball. The NBA's off to another great season right now and enjoying races that we're watching right now. And I'm excited for the playoffs as that carries on. And just excited to stay tuned to all the changes that are being made as we go forward. So just wanted to hop in here real quick with you guys and discuss all this. The last fun thing I'll sneak in here at the very end. Alec, you shared that they might be debuting a basketball version of Topgolf called JUMPSHOT.
Yeah,
be honest. How many shots you make? Out of 30 shots, how many shots you making? Be honest.
Out of 30?
30 shots, how many shots you making?
31.
I was going to say like 15.
You get 15 up? All right.
Yeah, what's the distance? Are these free throws? Are they like
I didn't see. They say in the video. Did they say in the video how far it is?
There was just like the like mock-up of like what it could look like, So I feel like it would be cool if it was like a basket that like moves, like not the whole time, but like you can move it to different distances for like more points or whatever, that kind of thing.
If it's a real thing, we'll be in there. We'll have a video for you guys for sure because that gets cool. So excited for all things basketball as we go forward.
Yeah. I'm cooking G.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Stamp that. I'm cooking
I'm
G.
not Caitlin Clark, bro.
Showing up head to toe in the Chadwick uniform.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Nah,
I'm shooting the sleeves on and everything.
I have the Rex backs back. Yeah, we're good.
Yep.
Oh my God. Nah. But I tried to mention it real quick, but I do want to say also as we end here, who's Caitlin Clark? She just beat South Carolina. Didn't fully see that coming, but
we didn't see that. We had South Carolina win the
game. So. Put on a show there yet again. She had like a 30-point triple-double, I think, or 35 at least.
I think she got to 41.
Yeah, she went crazy. So where the stat is, she went crazy, and excited to see her in the final versus LSU. I'm looking forward to it all. So good stuff here. Also, if you're only checking the group chat right now, still waiting on Bubba and his last place punishment.
Oh, that's right.
So, that's right. Announcement, Bubba. We ain't forget about that, bro. Make sure you get that punishment for it. But yeah, good stuff across the board. Excited for the new format going forward. We're gonna have our boy Jake Gold on next week and talk about a lot of things as we get ready for boxing or the MMA as UFC. I don't know where it is. One of these fights is coming up. Adesanya got a fight coming up.
They're hitting people somewhere soon.
All that stuff. Wherever it is,
violence
coming up. Violence is on the way. So Jake will be here for that. Oh my God. And all that kind of stuff. So good stuff here. Appreciate y'all for tuning back in. Tune into our bonus episode. We just talked about our movie rankings and all that stuff. Alec is still asleep on everything all at once, but whatever. Another
we'll send him a
day.
heads note.
And yeah, we'll be back. I'm done. I'm done here. Appreciate y'all tuning back in. Matt, thank you as always.
Yeah,
and we'll see y'all next week, man. Appreciate y'all. Peace.
Deuces.